Hey, welcome back, folks. David Johnson here from Spear Lapidary. Back to my old usual routine of fixing broken equipment. It's a sad state, but it keeps happening. And now I've got a new problem I haven't encountered before, so I've got to learn something. Now, you probably see the seizure-inducing flashing going on, and I'll show you that real quickly. Yeah, my favorite light is, well, it's doing something to the bed. So I'll kind of show you what's going on with this. Not completely, because you can't see inside the tank. But I'll open up the cover for the belt, so I'm going to turn the saw on for a second. Alright, that's long enough to get the point that all the belts are going. You can hear the blade spinning. So the bottom pulley down there comes off of the motor, drives this one drives the blade, and then these little pulleys, depending where you put them, go back and drive and engage the carriage to drive forward through the saw. Actually that's backward through the saw, I'm sorry. So it engages and drives backwards through the saw. I've got a rock in here. Heck, I'll show you that too. So I'm working on a stone for a customer, and I started cutting this one through. I cut it the other direction this way. Well, the rock was maybe the other way. And it went through just a little bit slower than normal. But anyway, I had to flip it, and I cut a slab off, and I'm going to make a sphere out of this rock for my customer. And it's a pretty piece of something or other. But after an hour or so, I figured it should have cut through, and I opened the lid, and lo and behold, there it was. And I thought, well, maybe I had misplaced time. So I shut the lid, turned it on, and let it go for another hour, and geez, I thought it went forward a little bit. I did that a third time. Anyway, the carriage is not driving through. So my first thought was I had a problem with the split nut. Now, when I see up here, this does nothing more than tighten the carriage down using this and this. This split nut, so I can't get it to slide on the threaded rod. But what I don't know is if this threaded rod is spinning, because the hood's got to be shut, because if it's not, I'm going to spread oil all over the shop. Alright, so now we're at the back of the saw, and I know this shaft was spinning, because you could see that when the belt door was open, but I don't know what's happening inside of here. So I've never had this open before. I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to see in here. There's a chance I could get super lucky, but that's kind of a pipe dream of mine to get lucky on something like this. So there's really only one wing nut that was holding it on. The other didn't thread on much at all. Alright, well, I can close the hood, and we're going to see what's turning and not turning here. I cannot see if the shaft is actually moving. There's a lot of slop there. I think I need new bearing, actually. Yeah, look at all the slop in here. So I need new bushing or bearing. Well, I certainly need a new bushing. So I'm going to see if Covington has got the front and rear bushings available. I'm sure they do. I'm just going to call them. Today is Sunday. I'll call them on Monday and talk to somebody there. I might poke online a little bit, but I'm sure I won't find anything at all. But you should not be able to do that with the shaft. If I get that fixed, yeah, the saw is going to be in a lot better shape. So let's do it. All right, I took another look at this problem with the carriage not advancing through. Now, I showed you the back of it before, and you can see how the big long threaded rod moves up and down. And it's not acceptable, but that isn't the actual issue that's preventing this from moving, because I set it up back there and I watched it for a long time, and the threaded rod would spin. I held it there for many, many minutes and it would spin. So what's happening is I'm getting some slippage of this split nut onto the threaded rod. I took a look at it. It looks a little bit wore, the threads on there, and I might get to show you that after. I kind of fashioned a temporary fix just to see if I think I'm right, and I added this big spring. This is a door closure spring from an old screen door. I had to cut it a little bit shorter and finagle it in there just to put more outward pressure on this, which hopefully will give a better bite from the split nut to the threaded rod. When this squeezes, it opens up and allows you to move the carriage back and forth. When the handle's open, the other side conversely closes onto this threaded rod, which is spinning, and you can really see it on the back spinning more than the front. Why? Because I can't show you spinning because I'll throw oil all over. So I'm going to set the camera back and close the lid and turn this on, and we're going to see in a little while, and maybe I'll hear it, if this carriage goes through and we start cutting the rock again. There we go. We'll see you soon. Okay, so far that was kind of working, except there was one problem. That was squeezing so tight on there, it started bearing down on the pulley system, and it wasn't letting, there's just so much tension on there, it quit working and the pulley started binding, the motor was bogging down. So I was about ready to smoke a belt, I think. So I got to take this all apart again. And then this comes off with some wiggling. There is also a washer, I believe, on the back side of this. It comes apart fairly easily. Yep, the flat washer is still back there. In fact, maybe there's two of them back there. So here's the split nut. When the spring action is working and pushing these outward, it closes the nut onto the thread. The thread is steel. This is brass or bronze or something. So this is a little softer, and hopefully this wears out before the shaft does. I'll take this apart and show you. The original spring that was in there was just like that. And I just cut this one down and put it over it. So I'm definitely thinking there is some wear there. I could try and hold this like this and run a tap through there and clean these threads up a little bit. In fact, I think I'll do that before I even think about modifying this spring any further. Okay, it's been a while, but I'm back at the 30-inch Covington fix. I took the split nut, I just stuck it in the vise right now. I went searching through the tap and die set I got, and what I believe it is a 1/2 inch 13. And we're going to see if I can tap it out. Now, I've got the tap handle, everybody knows what these are, but it doesn't fit because the handle of the vise is in the way. And I'm hoping this is on here snug enough so it doesn't move around. But I do have a couple little wrenches, and I'm going to see if I can get one to turn. I literally have not tried this yet, so you're doing this with me, folks. Come along for the ride. Oh. Worst case, if I ruin this split nut, then I buy another one. Because they are available from Covington. It is doing cutting. I can feel that and see some little shavings coming off. Turns out a 8mm metric fits on this real well. I think I might have to do this a couple times. I'm going to have to tighten this back up. I see it opened up a little. It feels pretty snug. I think definitely going to have to find a way to clamp this shut. It wants to open up. Alright, so I just put a little C-clamp on there. Yeah, I don't know. Might work, might not. Let's give it a try. Oddly enough, a 7mm, the open end side, fits on here quite well. Feels like it's cutting. I see some brass shavings coming out of there, and it doesn't appear to be opening up. I'll tell you, I'm doing this for two reasons. One, I got to see if it works, and two, I've got two customers with some really large size rocks that I need to get finished, and if this gets me through even temporarily, that's fine. It feels like it's working to me pretty good. Let's see what the final outcome is in a little, not too long from now. Okay. That's as much of that as I can do. Now my question is, okay, if I open up these threads again, is there a need to shave down the gap here so this closes a little tighter? And then rethread and then thread this again. I wonder if I shouldn't file that just a smidge. I could put it together and see how it goes without doing that. Or I could just take the time, file with flat surfaces just a bit, and then put this back together. And plenty of brass shavings, so I think we've got threads again. It is taking a little bit off. I'm putting a little more pressure on the outside than the inside because this thing will actually tilt because it does work off of this bolt. How much do I do? I don't know, and I have no way to come up with measurements, so we'll just do a little bit. All right, well, if nothing else, it shined it up, whereas originally, here's the other side, it's very dull. All right, second verse, same as the first. It shined a portion of it up on the bottom, so that must have been a little crooked. Now looking at this in the closed position, the bottom doesn't even really touch it. It touches on top, but not the bottom, so I'm not too worried about that bottom there. The threads are a little better than before. Whether they're good enough, I don't know. And again, I used a half inch 13 tap. A little bastard. Alright, we're going to put this together and see how it goes. Okay, I'm back at the sun. We're ready to put the split nut back on. Now, I don't know if it goes this way or this way. And honestly, I don't think it matters. It looks pretty symmetrical in both directions. There's a washer on here, just a flat washer. 1/2 the split nut, and the other half of the split nut. Feels good. Now, there are a couple important things. One, the spring has got to get in there. Sorry, moving that. Okay. And then you have a washer on the outside, followed by a castle nut. Make sure you put that on the correct way. If you recall, I stuck this big monster spring in there, and if I have to do that, I will, but I am going to have to cut it down because it's way too tight. I'm going to take it tight, maybe back off a smidge, because you've got to be able to compress this by hand. Okay, well there it's closed. That feels pretty good. But that feeling pretty good doesn't mean a whole lot. This has really got to work. One problem I have is there's a little movement here in this ring gear, up and down. So I think what he was getting at on the phone was there's two bolts. There's one here, and there's one here, that you can loosen up and kind of adjust the height of this ring gear. So I could adjust it up so it would further engage with these threads. Okay. Trouble is, I can't reach in there to take the blade off, and even if I did, because that's in the way, I can't reach the other side of these bolts. I'm going to need help for that. But I'm looking here, and the other half of this is this shaft with the gear on it, pinion gear or whatever it is. And I'm wondering if I can't loosen these nuts and maybe make this come down a little bit. Haven't tried it yet, so you're going to see a success or something else. I did look for the right wrench already, 11 millimeter. And I don't need much, just a 1/16 of an inch just to make it run a little better. I think you could add some oil to that too. That's another issue. There's a little bit of room there. I think if I hold this down with my left hand, so I'll be in your way, and then tighten this up, I might gain a little bit. Alright, that may have helped. Okay, that's meshing snugly again. Okay, I saw one other thing on here. There's a little cap here you can open up so you can actually oil the bearing. I don't know what kind of oil to use. I gotta look into that, but we're gonna get a few drops of the proper oil down there. There's just a little cap. I don't think this is going to solve my problem per se, but it's going to take me one step closer, and hopefully now I don't have to buy any parts for the back end of this and take this apart. Okay, well that's on. I think we're okay. Let's give her a test. Alright, so there's a stone that's been giving me grief. I've had this in here for a while. What basically is happening, I think, is I'm still slipping on the split nut or the split pliers is slipping on this shaft. I did order a new split pliers for this, and that's what they call it, is the pliers. Let's shut the lid now. And let that wheel around for a little while and see how it does. Okay, there we are. The proof is in the pudding. We've got a one of many slabs cut. I actually cut quite a few since I last talked to you about this project, and I'll show you where it ended up and what I've done. Alright, so I've got a double spring on here. This outer one isn't doing a whole lot. The center one is the original. So I haven't added much pressure. When you add too much pressure with a heavier spring, it bites more and more on the threaded rod, and it will actually stop it. So yeah, you got to be careful. You've got to find that right amount of pressure to put on the spring. So I've done that. So all I really have done was put a tap through there on the bench, you saw that, and then on the back side of the saw, I just kind of realigned the ring and pinion gear. I think it's a ring and pinion. So that's it. My saw has been working. So with those two little fixes, I got my saw back in order. I'll show you one other thing. There's a package in the wall there, and that's the new split pliers. So if I run into any more problems, the first thing I'm going to do is swap that out. I called Covington a couple times. They're very responsive to my calls. I've mentioned it a few times before. Their website is pretty junk when it comes to parts and repair. They got a few things, but seriously, call them. Call Covington if you have a Covington issue. You're going to really quickly be able to talk to somebody who knows what's going on, and that was a real blessing. There's some potential other fixes I have going on with this thing. I'm thinking I might want to move my Everclean from where it's mounted over there and just slide it up here maybe 10, 12 inches so I can get at it, because right now from the wheelchair it is a super stretch for me to get at it. So that might be a future project. I might one day change this split nut, or on the back of the saw I'll have to get the blade out and get somebody to reach inside, take some bolts out, and buy some more parts to hold up that back end of the threaded rod. So we'll see. So anyway, if you got anything out of this, give it a thumbs up. I'd appreciate it. You know, this stuff doesn't get a ton of views, so every little view helps, and every comment or thumbs up helps a lot too. So yeah, until then, see you next time.